We are now basically counting down the days until Elden Ring's Shadow of the Erdtree DLC releases, and FromSoftware just dropped a brand new story trailer with new information on top of what we've already seen. Shadow of the Erdtree is set to be Elden Ring's only DLC expansion and will be massive, including tons of new bosses, new weapon categories, and so much more. Today's story trailer gave us an even deeper glimpse at what we can expect, so let's take a dive into Shadow of the Erdtree. The trailer starts us off with a narrator telling us about Miquella the Kind, who spoke of the beginning, and it shows us a pretty interesting sequence of Miquella pulling something from what looks like a body and then walking through a field of blood. It then pans out to show us Miquella standing in between two giant pillars of what appear to be bodies in a field of even more bodies, and he's holding up these golden threads. These threads seem to be either something like a great rune, part of the Elden Ring itself, or maybe it's something entirely different. It seems like he is attempting to create a Haligtree to try and fight against Malenia's Scarlet Rot. We know that Malenia is Miquella's twin sister, and we also know that in Elden Ring, Miquella is a demigod and an Empyrean, which in the lore of the game are beings that can basically become gods. These include Malenia, Queen Marika, Ranni the Witch, and the Gloam-Eyed Queen. He and his twin sister were both afflicted, with Malenia having rot in her body and Miquella being basically a child forever. Malenia considered Miquella the most fearsome Empyrean as well, and we know that he can compel affection from others. The scene switches to the war that the narrator is mentioning, and we first get to see those Wickerman bosses from the first DLC trailer as well as they march through a burning city. There's a giant army alongside them invading this place, and they're just destroying and killing everything. This battle is the one that takes place just before the Shattering, which we know is the massive event that basically kicks off most of the story of Elden Ring. We then get to see Messmer the Impaler standing over the battle, aiding in the destruction. It seems like the army attacking is his. We then see that one lion boss from the DLC trailer aiding in the battle against Messmer's army, and it jumps to try and attack Messmer, but it looks like it has failed dramatically at doing that. We also get to see why they call Messmer the Impaler, because after that lion scene, the trailer shows us several groupings of bodies that look impaled. Messmer is standing in front of them and he's wielding his giant weapon. This scene alone is honestly one of the craziest cinematic masterpieces I've seen in a long time. It's got a very sinister, devilish feel to it that is just complemented perfectly by the soundtrack of this trailer. Honestly, just insane. That was kind of my reaction throughout most of the trailer, to be fair though. The scene then pans from the impaled bodies up to the tree that we saw back in the Shadow of the Erdtree trailer at the beginning. If you remember, the first tree we glimpsed in the original trailer was not the same as the Erdtree that we roam around and see in Elden Ring, but a different sort of tree, and it now seems basically that this was just the Haligtree Miquella was putting together at the beginning of this new story trailer. Spilling out of this tree is gold, and the camera pans up to basically show it and sort of like a veiled look around it over this kind of new destroyed area. After this, we find out that Miquella basically abandoned everything, and we also get a glimpse at what looks like the Lost Grace sites, but they do seem different in the new DLC with a different shape and formation to them. Although Miquella has stripped himself of his flesh and golden lineage to travel to the Land of Shadow, the narrator of the trailer reveals that she's a follower of Miquella, and they are probably tarnished as well, as she states that she and the others are not deterred by the impending doom and situation surrounding them. We then get a glimpse at several people standing near this new site of grace, basically. Now, this new trailer was not a gameplay trailer. This was a cinematic trailer that was just there to basically tell us the story of Miquella, how Messmer destroyed quite a lot, and how you are this basically promised lord that the people have been waiting for to arrive in the Land of Shadow. The DLC is very clearly about Miquella's story, and Miquella was a bit shrouded in mystery in the base game. We didn't really get to see a lot of him in the game, but we should be getting much more information about him and his role in the overall story with the new DLC. I'll go through just a bit of lore here, but I won't go too in depth in this video because obviously I don't want to overwhelm you guys, but these are some pretty important details to know that could add a lot of context to the story trailer. We know that Miquella initially created the Haligtree to try and become an adult and purge Malenia's Scarlet Rot, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video. That's because the Golden Order basically couldn't cure Malenia, so he figured he could help his sister and himself in a way. The Haligtree serves as a sort of refuge for those who are not touched by grace in the base game, such as the Albinauriacs and the Misbegotten. We also know that Messmer is basically the opposite of Miquella in this, and he hunts those who are not touched by grace instead. Still, before the Haligtree grew to its full potential, Mohg, the Lord of Blood, stole Miquella when he was still in his cocoon form. Mohg basically basically wanted Miquella to make him his consort after elevating to godhood. Still, Mohg's efforts at sharing a ton of blood with Miquella to get this done were futile, because Miquella had actually traveled to the Land of Shadow, so he wasn't really there. It probably seems like that cocoon was just kind of an empty shell. This pretty much basically explains why the travel point to the DLC in Elden Ring will be at Mohgwyn's palace. Now, we don't really have a total answer to some of these things, but it's pretty clear that the Tarnished, or you, will be the promised lord that Miquella is waiting for, and it seems like Miquella is planning to ascend to godhood with the Tarnished as some sort of consort or something like that. So Miquella will likely not be our enemy, but we never know because twist villains are always a possibility, though it doesn't seem at this point that he is our main enemy. It looks like the Shadow of the Erdtree story will also be taking place in the present and not before the Erdtree existed, as the Land of Shadow is overshadowed by the Erdtree, so it wouldn't make sense that the Erdtree didn't exist yet. It would also make sense, since you being the Elden Lord could only occur in the present time, so the DLC having you as the Elden Lord be the promised lord Miquella waits for couldn't happen in the past, though it does look like the past plays a massive influence on the story anyways. What with what we've seen in the trailer today with the war that was happening with Messmer. Now, I'm curious personally to know how Messmer and Miquella's stories intertwine and how Messmer is so powerful, even if he's not a confirmed Empyrean like Miquella. He seems to have a connection to Rykard, Lord of Blasphemy, and Radagon of the Golden Order, with his red hair and the snake he has with him. It's possible he's also connected to Radahn and Millennia because they all have red hair as well. What's interesting is that Messmer has a lot of blasphemous and heretical imagery that accompanies him, but he still has a sort of connection to the Golden Order and grace, and he wants to purge those that stray away from it. It's possible he can also commune with dragons, which could be interesting lore-wise. There's a lot of potential things we can speculate about Messmer, but for now, who he really is and what his real role in the story is are pretty shrouded in mystery, so there's not much that we know at the end of the day. You will supposedly be able to travel between both the lands between an Elden Ring's base game and the Land of Shadow in this new DLC, so we'll have to wait and see how FromSoftware will integrate them gameplay-wise, since the new DLC will have new magic, weapons, bosses, and more. As I mentioned in the last Shadow of the Erdtree video I made, the map of the Land of Shadow is supposed to be at least the size of the Limgrave region, which was already massive, so if you haven't finished the base game yet, you should probably get on that fast. The DLC is also set to be nearly 60 gigabytes in size, so it's a pretty big game, let's put it at that. The trailer itself is about 3 minutes in length, but to be honest, I was left wanting a lot more by the end, because I'm probably just overly excited, but seriously, I'm excited. I find this DLC to be very engaging already, and I'm definitely going to be looking into tons of lore content before I get to playing it, because this was a lore-packed trailer for sure. Release date wise, this has been known, but just in case you forgot, the DLC releases on June 21, exactly a month from today, and it will be $39.99 USD for the base edition. There is a deluxe edition as well that includes an art book and a soundtrack. Now, if you have never played Elden Ring before, but you're getting really interested in this DLC, there is a way you can buy both games at once. There's a bundle that includes the two games together. Obviously, you get access to the base game now, but when the DLC comes out, you'll be able to play it then, so you can get a jump start from now, which I do recommend because that DLC is going to be packed with content. There is a collector's edition that you can pre-order, which includes the DLC, a Messmer the Impaler statue, the box, and a physical version of the art book. That one is about $249.99 USD, but it does not include the base Elden Ring game, so you still do need the base game. If you pre-order any edition of the DLC, you should get a Ring of Miquella bonus gesture. If you want more details on what's in Shadow of the Erdtree, you can check out my last video where I talked more in depth about the details that we already know. I'll put that video link in the description below so you can go and check it out. I'll probably be making some more content on the DLC before it comes out as well, so stay tuned for that. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, consider doing that now so you can actually get all updates on these videos as they come out. I'm personally very excited to see what other information FromSoftware will give us before the DLC comes out. Elden Ring is one of the few games that I consider probably even more than a 10 out of 10, and giving a 10 out of 10 is tough for me because I always find faults with games that I can't overlook, but there is something magnetic about Elden Ring that I want to keep playing the game without thinking about like literally any other game. There's something fascinating about the world building and the lore that FromSoftware put together for this game, and I cannot wait to see what new things we'll get with this new DLC. And with that being said, thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed that video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe with notifications set to all so you never miss out on a single upload. Comment below your thoughts on this new story trailer for the Elden Ring DLC, and if you're excited like I am. Don't forget to check out our website for gaming news, entertainment, and more. The link to that, as well as all our other important links, are in the description below. Thanks again, and I'll see you all in the next one.